From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, college football playoff format for the next 2 seasons has been revealed. The pros and cons of it, we lay it out, Corey and myself. And the Noles winning on the hardwood and the diamond. Let's talk about it all. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. CPTallybar.com, the website. You can always hit the QR code on your screen. It'll take you right to the website instead of having to type. Ain't that cool? Bill hooking it up. Also hooking you up with lunch today from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only $8.99 for 5-piece chicken wings and French fries. Best wings in town. Lots of options. Lots of options on the wings in terms of the flavors. Mild, medium, hot, honey barbecue, spicy barbecue, teriyaki heat, garlic parmesan, spicy garlic, Old Bay, lemon pepper, honey mustard, ranch. I could keep going. Literally, I could keep going. But you get the gist of it, everybody. Only $8.99 today at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Go have lunch. Treat yourself. Treat yourself to warchant.com. Ultimate Seminole sports source. If you're a subscriber to warchant.com, you would have been able to save, I think, 20% off hats at Garnet and Gold. And they got all the awesome swag at Garnet and Gold, garnetandgold.com as well. 25% off headwear. But it was only one day. That day is now gone. But if you're a member, I'm sure you took advantage of it. If you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Come on over. Water is freaking fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, Corey S. Clark in the house. What's up, Corey? How are you?
What's up, buddy? How are you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself? This is a little later than we usually convene, but glad to hear your voice.
A lot later. This is almost like this is going to drop after midnight because we're recording into midnight and past it. This is like this is an old school wake up.
I know. What happened to us? Did I get old?
I think you got old. I think I wouldn't have a problem recording at this hour most nights, but I feel like you want to knock it out a little earlier than that. I think Norvell changed your life.
He did.
With the morning practices.
He did. Yeah, man. Yeah, if I have to edit it, if I could just be the talent and just talk and then be like, I'm out.
Yeah, that's true. And then go to bed. Yeah, go get on Netflix. We'll go watch Netflix for a while.
Yeah.
By the way, True Detective,
Yeah.
All right, whatever. It wasn't great.
Tourist.
Have you heard of The Tourist on Netflix?
I have not. No.
Watch that. I'm halfway through season 1. It's set in Australia, but it's a really good show. It's good acting. It's Jamie Dornan, whoever that is.
Ooh, that's a 50 Shades of Grey guy, I think.
Oh, that is who that is. I knew now that sounds like I've seen all the movies. I knew I recognized him from clips. I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movies, but he's really good in it. Okay. And the whole show is really cool. He's got like amnesia, so he doesn't know where he is, but he's lived this life that he doesn't understand why people are trying to kill him. It's a cool show. I would recommend it to folks.
Okay, cool. There you go, everybody.
Sorry, I just threw that out there because I'm about to go watch it when we're done with this.
I love it, man. No, it's all don't ever apologize. Really, really enjoy that. We don't have to force a football today. We've got legitimate stuff to talk about. I'm sure you guys talked about it on headlines, so maybe if there's anything you left off, feel free to fill in the gaps here. 2 things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Andy Staples observation in terms of the latest saga, twist, whatever you want to call it, in the ACC Florida State lawsuit that came out late last week that we really didn't touch on Monday, but just want to share my 2 cents on that, Corey. But first, the 12-team playoff, we knew it was coming. It was going to be a 6-6 model, 6 highest-rated conference champions, 6 at-large teams, but then that whole conference realignment thing happened. Pac-12 no longer. So it's going to be your 5 highest-ranked conference champions, not necessarily Power 5. So theoretically, the SEC and Big Ten can beat up on each other, and the Mountain West can win out, and the MAC can win out, and whatever else is out there could win out. But it's going to be the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and then the 7 at-large, 7 highest-ranked teams behind them. The college football playoff will still be determining where those teams are ranked.
Yeah.
The really cool thing, I guess, and listen, I'm not a big. I don't like change. I don't like change. I like who I am, as Apollo Creed once said. I don't want to change. I like who I am. But it's kind of neat to see this all lay out. It's a little bit scary, I guess, if you look at the bracket they put on the Scott Van Pelt ESPN earlier here, Corey, where it shows, based on the rankings last year, what it would look like in this year's sort of layout, and we've seen what it would look like with last year's rules, with last year's teams. Liberty making it, but basically of the 12 teams that were in the playoff bracket, only one was not from the SEC or the Big Ten. But it's not going to work out that way because obviously some of these teams are in the same conference, so there's going to be other conference champions that are going to make it in there. That was
it was two, right? It was FSU and Liberty would have been the two?
No, Liberty would not have been in there based on these rules
gotcha.
here. Based on these
Oh,
these new
yeah,
rules.
gotcha. Right. Yeah.
So it was only Florida State, like Missouri's in there, Oregon's in there, Ole Miss is in there. You have Penn State playing Ohio State in one. But again, some of these conference champions, there's going to be maybe like a Mountain West team that's going to end up getting in there, or maybe a MAC team. So we'll see how it goes. But I guess the cool part of this is that there is going to be those 4 teams get a bye, and then there's going to be 8 other teams playing that first weekend. There's going to be a Friday game, and then a triple header on Saturday.
Ooh, I like that. Friday night game would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
A home game on a Friday night?
I take it back. I screwed that all up.
Oh, great. Come on,
they're still on campus those first 4 games.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
The second batch of games.
Oh, I gotcha.
Friday single game, Friday night, New Year's Eve, and then a triple header on New Year's Day with the last 8 teams standing.
Okay.
That's going to be pretty intense. That's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then also we know the first round's going to start December 19th and the 20th.
Okay.
So the quarterfinals New Year's Eve, man. It's either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So if you get that bye, and I know it'd be so awesome to play at Doak. I'm not going to ever say I don't want to play at Doak. But man, if you get that bye, Corey, you're talking about an additional 11 days, maybe 12 days of additional rest that you will get. So I wonder how that's going to factor into things. What are your thoughts on some of these things that have come out?
Yeah, we hope this is something we have to actually talk about and think about 8-9 months from now because it will apply to the team we're covering. But, that rest versus the rust, right? Like, that team that plays on, what'd you say, December 19th?
I apologize, 20th and the 21st, first round.
So, well, either way. So they'll play a conference championship game, and then they'll have about 2 weeks to prepare and then a week of game prep, like a week of a real practice and then play a game. So they'll only have 3 weeks off or like 19 days off as opposed to 30 days off. Yeah, some rust that comes with that. I honestly think a home game, that first round, if you win the game, which is a big if, that's you almost feel better about, okay, you've played a playoff game, you've gotten that under your belt, that other team has not, and yes, the rest will be beneficial, but that rust and the nerves that come with it when you've already won a game, I think there's something to be said about maybe wanting to be that 5 seed. You'd still want the bye, I guess. But that's
a lot of rest, man.
We'll talk about it as we get close to this, and again, even if Florida State isn't involved, that 4 versus 5, like, do you want to bye, which is great, sure, it's 11 days of extra rest, or would you rather play the 9 seed, or the 12 seed, I guess, as a home game? And if you win that, you got some momentum going. Then you play basically, 10 days later? That seems like more advantageous to me than taking 30 days off.
Okay.
But that might be because I just watched a team take 30 days off and lose by 60 points. And then even all of Jimbo's good teams, when they had 30 days off, they never looked like they did when the season ended. There was always, like, you try to find your footing. The rhythm isn't there. The timing isn't there. So I just think that's still in my brain. But, man, I could see a scenario where you'd rather be the 5 playing a home game than the 3 or the 4 getting that bye.
Probably apples to oranges, but the Niners did not look good, and neither did Baltimore.
Yeah, man.
Coming out of their bye weeks.
I don't think that's apples and oranges. I think there's a comparison you can draw from that.
It's a little longer though,
Yeah.
But yeah, they did not look in the first half against the Packers. The Niners, they were on the ropes. I mean, they were on the ropes pretty much that whole entire game. I don't like the 4 bye weeks or the 4 byes though. That's the one thing I did like about the NFL expanding was like they did expand the playoff, but they all right, there's only 1 bye per conference because it used to be 2, right? I think there used to be 2 byes per conference.
Yes, yep.
We'll see how the next round of this stuff goes, but I don't like 4 teams getting a bye week. I think like 2 should get it. And again,
that's fair.
We'll figure out how they're going to make it all work with all the teams that are involved. Second part of this though, Corey, again, it's going to be at least 2 more years. So this coming year, this 24 season, the 25 season, it's going to be this 5+7 model. And then after that, they will have renegotiated the TV contract for the playoff. And then they're going to, probably shake it up again because we think that there's going to be realignment once more. But man, if this is going to be really the power two at that point, right? I guess if you're a Florida State fan, you're hoping that you're going to be on one of these other yachts, super cruisers or whatever they call them out there, aircraft carrier, because I mean, when they renegotiate this a second time, Corey, at least in 2 years from now, we think Florida State will not be in the ACC. Man, it's going to be, I don't know, like what, 5? I mean, if they keep it at 12 teams, at most there might be 2 teams that are not in the SEC or the Big Ten, I would assume.
Yeah, and I think we kind of buried the lead on this. The 5+7 instead of the 6+6 is important. That's something we need to talk about, and we did. But as Ross Dellinger reported for Yahoo, and other people reported it too, and we'll find out more today, because today they're meeting again, and the SEC and the Big Ten, according to Ross Dellinger, who we've had on the show, friend of the show, and is a very good college football reporter. He has sources, very good sources. The SEC and Big Ten are going to ask for unequal distribution, revenue distribution, meaning they're going to get more money than all the other conferences. And they're also going to ask for at least an extra automatic qualifier. So I would assume what they're going to say is if you make the SEC championship game, you get in, no matter what happens.
What's the point of playing that game then? They're really going to dilute that
Exactly
game.
Right. Yeah, they shouldn't even play it. And they might get rid of the conference championship games. That might be something that comes from this.
Not against that. Not opposed to that.
But the point of everything is that the Big Ten and the SEC only care about the Big Ten and the SEC, and they want more money, they want more power, they want more leverage, and they want more revenue distribution. They want an unequal share. So if there's $2 billion to go around, they want $1.6 billion of it, and y'all can the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC and whoever else can split the $400 million or whatever the numbers are. The Big Ten and the SEC want an unequal revenue, which is what Florida State wants in the ACC, which isn't happening. But again, it just goes back to, and we did talk about this on Headlines, the Big Ten and the SEC only care about the Big Ten and the SEC. Nothing about the rest of college football matters to them at all. And it just boggles my mind and frustrates me to no end that Florida State is painted as a villain for suing the ACC to try to get out of that conference. Meanwhile, I didn't see any columns written how Greg Sankey has ruined the sport and how the Big Ten has ruined the sport. And they're they basically, not basically, they blew up the Pac-12. The Pac-12 has been around forever, since it was the Pac-8. And it ceased to exist. And yet Florida State is being uppity and not knowing their role or not enjoying their place because they want to get out of the ACC. But Greg Sankey isn't a villain. The Big Ten isn't a villain, even though they took USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, and blew up an entire conference. Greg Sankey blew up the Big 12 because he took Texas and Oklahoma. No, Florida State is the villain for wanting to join those ships and not be on the Titanic, which is what they're currently on. Again, they are going to come out. We're going to hear more about it on Wednesday. It'll become a national story, what they're asking for, and then what is agreed to as the ACC sits there and just has to wear it because they have no power. The Big Ten and the SEC control the sport, and they are going to get more money. It's not going to be equal distribution because they want all of it. They want all of it. And meanwhile, Florida State has to fight for scraps while Arkansas and Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Purdue, and Northwestern get twice as much money per year as Florida State. And it really frustrates me.
What do you think?
Well, what are you going to do?
Well, you're going to litigate and try to get out of this conference because then we would not be complaining about this at all. And that's kind of the next part of this conversation to get to. But so again, 2 more years of this, the 5+7 model, 5 highest ranked conference champions, 7 at-large teams, Corey. Following these 2 years, do you think it's more likely they stay at 12 and they're just straight up the 6 teams from the SEC, 6 teams from the Big Ten? Or do you think they'll do a 16-team playoff and do some kind of, I don't know, man, 7-7, and then we'll just give 2 at large. You're like, we'll let Cornell, like the NCAA tournament, we'll give an automatic qualifier to these lesser teams. I mean, how much do you think they'll try to incorporate, try to keep some sort of facade of a nationwide national championship, or how much of it is going to be Big Ten SEC challenge?
Here's the problem with that question. Who is they?
I guess Sankey and Petiti, right? I mean, they're running.
That's what I'm saying. So what do they care? They would rather it be 6 SEC and 6 Big Ten teams, and everybody else can watch. So there is no they as far as to, like, the overall college football leadership that's looking out for the best interest of the sport. So no, they don't care. They might. I'm sure it'll eventually go to 16 because 12 is a weird number, and also the Division 1 AA, Division 2 NAIA. I think those are all 16 teams. I feel like the FBS will eventually get to 16 teams too because it's more money. It's 2 extra games. That's more money. That's more content. But they don't care. If they don't care, they do not give one flying F if any other teams besides the SEC and Big Ten ever get in that playoff. Ever. And so, again, that's why Florida State has to look out for themselves, because I can promise you the Big Ten is looking out for itself, and the SEC has only looked out for itself for 20 years. So, of course, Florida State should be looking out for itself. So, no, yeah, they might. I don't even know who they would be. Who would, like, Sankey's going to be like, guys, we got to have one group of 5 team in this. Says who? They don't. At what, the expense of Arkansas, who went 8-4? Arkansas wants to get in. So I don't foresee that the people running the show are ESPN and Fox, SEC and Big Ten. I don't foresee why any of them would give one rat's ass if Liberty or FAU or FIU or FSU or Oklahoma State got into the playoff. They don't care. They just want to take care of the SEC and the Big Ten, which is why Florida State needs to be in one of them. Because the writing has been on the wall forever, but it is clearly on the wall now. It'll be more on the wall later today and later this week, and as these negotiations develop, that the SEC and Big Ten are the NFC and the AFC. And if you're in the USFL, you're not playing in the NFL playoffs. You've got to be in the NFC or the AFC to have any chance of ever doing anything important in this sport again.
Currently, as it sits, there is a management committee of the college football playoff, and it's 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick. So, I wonder if that's going to have some kind of blowback, because you'd have to dissolve that committee, that management committee aspect of this, because what happened on Tuesday when they announced the 5+7, it was voted on by 10 FBS presidents, like school presidents were part of this, and then Notre Dame's president as well. So as long as those people have voices, you'd figure there's going to be some sort of access to this playoff. But the further this money gap grows, it's like, who are you fooling? Then it starts becoming the 16 seed playing the 1 seed in the NCAA playoff. And now we've seen two upsets in the last 4 years.
Right.
But it's not going to work that way in football. So are we going to fool ourselves to try to, for tradition's sake, let's try to get some sort of geographic representation, or let's give an underdog a shot in this whole thing. It's kind of scary to think about, but it is exciting, I guess, to maybe look at some of these brackets and think about this stuff. And if you want to plan ahead, everybody, the Fiesta Bowl will be the first quarterfinal game, and then the Peach, Rose, and Sugar, that's a triple header on New Year's Day. So Noles either at Doak or possibly, where would you rather be, Corey? Would you rather be in Phoenix for New Year's Eve, or you want to be home in Atlanta?
On, what are you asking me? Yeah, I want to be in Atlanta on New Year's Day. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe kind of. When's the last time in the Phoenix for the Tennessee national championship?
I was
game?
there for Marcus Outzen.
I was never there.
I don't ever want to go back.
Really?
Well, I mean, that was a gross game.
It was. Yeah.
Peter Warwick touched the ball once on offense. Mark Richt, I'll never forgive you or forget it. That Peter Warwick got the ball once. Meanwhile, Marcus Outzen had the ball 40 times. But either way, I don't need to ever go back to there. If the other option is Atlanta, yeah, buddy, I want to do Atlanta. Plus, I don't like the New Year's Eve games.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's like a 6 p.m. start or a 5 p.m. start. But yeah, I don't like the New Year's Eve games.
Well, it's Peach, Rose, or Sugar. Would you rather Atlanta or New Orleans?
New Orleans. That's a great question, Aslan. I appreciate you asking me. Yes, I'd rather be in New Orleans for New Year's Eve, I guess, than Atlanta.
All right, and then the last
With
thing.
my bride. It'll be my bride. It'll be
Yeah.
my wife.
Can't
my
wait,
wife
man.
at that point.
That's right. All right, and then the other aspect of the college football landscape, I don't know if Jeff brought up on headlines, but I know he and Andy Staples on 3 had discussed it over the weekend, maybe on Friday. Again, didn't touch on it Monday. My bad, everybody. I was getting back in town from the softball shenanigans, but I guess the one part of the most recent filing, I guess the ACC was pretty much saying that, I guess Andy's theory was they've almost laid out the exit for Florida State. Like it would work out to where Florida State would essentially just buy their own rights back from the ACC, because there was wording in that complaint or the amended part of this lawsuit where the ACC said, listen, there is not a penalty. Like just because you have to buy it back does not necessarily mean a penalty. Basically, I guess opening the door to a negotiation. Like I didn't take it that way, Corey. So I'm probably the wrong perspective on this. I'm hoping maybe you've got a little bit more of a refined outlook on this. But to me, that just almost sounded, that's just kind of the posturing of this whole thing where, listen, if they want to leave, they can leave. There's financial stipulations in regards to this that they'll have to, kind of reconcile. They can do it if they want, but they're going to have to pay money. That it felt to me that was more kind of a leaving the doors open in terms of saying like there are ways for them to leave, but we're going to get our pound of flesh. Like believe that. Whereas I guess Andy was laying out like there's a floor belief of like maybe $150 million to get out of the conference, and then maybe a ceiling of $570 million. If you can meet somewhere in the middle, Florida State is going to be content with it and then leave. Like I just don't think the ACC is going to lay that out. I mean, do you think that's what they took the first step of doing in this amended part of the lawsuit?
Yeah, I just didn't read anything into that language. That language has been in the contract forever. You can buy back your grant of rights. That's always been there.
Oh.
That's not something that just was thrown into this, and it doesn't mean that the ACC is like, here's your pathway if you want to. That's always been a path. Like if they win their law, they can buy their grant of rights back. What's the number? So yeah, man, I thought there was way too much made of that, and Lord knows I'm all aboard Florida State getting out of this conference and finding one of those two super tankers to land on. But I don't think that language, really illustrated anything. I just think that's the language that's been there, and it's always been part of the deal. I don't know the numbers at all. I do know that, like, the ACC to settle would have to fear that they're not going to get a dime. Like somebody would rule and say, no, Florida State doesn't owe you that kind of money to get out of this conference. Are you crazy? So let's take the $200 million or $150 million, whatever Andy was postulating. Let's take the $150 or $200 million as opposed to zero. But if the ACC legitimately thinks there's no way that they're going to be paid $0, well, I don't know why they would settle for anything less than what they think they're absolutely owed. So, yeah, look, I hope this thing is expedited. I hope it happens very quickly within the next calendar year for sure. But I don't know that the stuff that made the rounds this past weekend didn't impact me one way or the other. I don't foresee that. That didn't change my stance, and that didn't raise any eyebrows. I thought that was just the way it's all. To my understanding, that's the way it's always been worded. It does not mean that the ACC is like, hey, if you just give us this amount right now, you're on your own. Go, have fun. I think that's just part of the wording of the contract.
Oh,
but I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney.
Right, just the son of one.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like Oscar the Grouch on this or something. I felt like there was so much traction was built off of this. Like, hey man, it's happening. Like this is becoming.
Yeah, calm down, right? We're trying to be the voice of reason here. Calm down with that. Like, slow your roll with this weekend's quote unquote news and the verbiage and just slow your roll with that. That did not mean I do not think that meant what other people thought it meant.
VitaminEnergy.com, everybody. You know the promo code WarChant BOGO. You've been using it. We appreciate it. So do those folks over at Vitamin Energy, and they're Florida State fans, so they doubly appreciate it. Use that promo code WarChant BOGO when you go to VitaminEnergy.com, and you get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free when you add one into your cart. Try the variety pack. You keep asking me every time I see you out in public, Aslan, does this stuff really work? I tell you, yeah. Then you're like, well, which one should I get? I'm like, try them all. You can't go wrong. In my hand, the Vitamin Energy Mood Plus. 7 hours of energy, 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine. It's also got niacin. It's got vitamin B6, vitamin B12, little potassium in there, some lemon balm extract, passion flower extract, valerian root extract, all this sort of stuff. Just kind of, gets you in a good mood. Gets you in a real good mood. So try it. So head to vitaminenergy.com. Use the promo code Corey.
Warchant BOGO.
That is right. And get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free, courtesy of our great friends at vitaminenergy.com. It is energy with benefits. World's first and only clinically proven, clinically tested energy shot. Shake it and take it. vitaminenergy.com. Corey, if I brought Mark Richt on the show, would you actually, how much time would you want to spend actually cross-examining him on his Fiesta Bowl 1998-99 calendar year game
He's
plan?
too nice a person, I think. And it's been a quarter century at this point. I would probably ask one question, why didn't you line him up at quarterback more? He literally, Aslan, I was there. I was in the end zone in Tempe. The very first play of the game for Florida State, the very first play of the game, Peter Warwick is in the shotgun to take a snap at quarterback. And then they get a delay of game because that was Florida State in the late 90s. They got a lot of delay of games. That was Mark Richt's specialty. Love you, Mark. You're a great offensive coordinator, but he had some delay. He would get delay of games coming out of timeouts for having to call a timeout to avoid a delay of game. Then the very next play, they get away. When you were a Florida State fan in the 90s, you had to find something to complain about.
Right.
You couldn't just enjoy it all. So that was our one thing, was the delay of games. But yeah, I would, because he never lined up at quarterback again the rest of the game. Literally, he's in the quarterback. He's in the shotgun, ready to take a snap. He takes the snap, but it's a half a second too late. They get flagged 5 yards. He never lines up at quarterback again. And he had one catch for 9 yards in the national championship game. So I would just ask him, why didn't you put him back at quarterback more? That's it.
We'll be continuing our interview series in the offseason on tomorrow's show. Or maybe we'll
Is
save it
Mark
for
Richt
Friday.
coming?
No, we don't have Mark Richt coming.
Oh,
out.
that's too bad.
But we're continuing effort to get interviews. So we'll do an interview this week, probably mailbag next week, because we're not flush with interview opportunities. And it was awesome to hear, I think on the Rosillo show I was listening to, that's the only other podcast I listened to, just talking about, how hard is I'm like, if he of number 3, number 4 highest ranked podcast has trouble getting guests, then I'm not going to beat myself up for not being able to get guests. But we got a guest for you this week, everybody. So it's going to be fun. Be subscribed to the podcast. You always know when a show's dropping, so take advantage of that. Corey, you were at the Tuck on Tuesday night. Yep. Solid dub by Leonard and the boys against BC. What did you take away from an ACC conference win for the Noles on Tuesday evening?
So this is going to sound harsh. I don't mean it to. Darren Green couldn't play because of an injury, I think. He wasn't even dressed out. Primo Spears is in somebody's doghouse because he didn't play a single minute. He didn't 40 minutes. He didn't play at all in the second half against Duke, and then didn't play on Saturday. Then didn't play a single second on Tuesday against Boston College. But he was dressed out, so he was available. He just didn't play, and they looked really good without those two. And Chandler Jackson, I guess the point is Chandler Jackson, they had no choice really. They had to play him a lot. And, yeah, man, he should be playing more. I don't know. He had a career high, so I'm sure it's, it's recency bias. But Chandler Jackson just does more things on a basketball court than Darren Green does. Offensively, I should say. Chandler can get in the paint. He's a better distributor, can shoot, probably not as well as Darren Green, clearly not as well as Darren Green. But Darren Green, let's be honest, hasn't been a knockdown shooter. He's shooting 38%, which is the best on the team. He's their three-point sharpshooter. But he hadn't been great this year from beyond the arc. Boston College has a kid that's shooting 46%. Chandler Jackson made all of his threes on Tuesday. And I just think Watkins and Chandler Jackson, that's a nice combo, man. They played really well. They're still not great defensively. They're not going to be great defensively. But they're not bad offensively. They don't shoot it well, although they shot pretty well for them on Tuesday night. But yeah, I thought they did not beat a good team, let's say on Tuesday. But Boston College isn't horrible. They're 15-11. They just beat Miami. last week. So this isn't the Boston College that went 4-26 that one year. It's a it's an okay team. And yeah, Florida State looked good. It was nice to see them play like that and close out a game. And when they were down 61-60 with like 11 minutes to go, and they were giving up a lot of easy buckets, they did kind of clamp down on defense when it mattered to go on a 10-0 run that changed the game and won them the game. Boston College didn't score for like 3 minutes. Florida State forced 3 turnovers. They had 2 steals. Nickelberry hit a 3, which that was great to see. Heaven knows. So yeah, it was a nice win. It was a nice dub after a 3-game losing streak. Can't take too much away from it. They're still not making the tournament. They're still going to barely probably eke to a winning record, you hope. It's going to be close. They're going to be right around 500 because they got some tough games coming up, including Saturday night at Clemson. But, yeah, man, it was nice to see them get a W, and they swept Boston College, which is always good.
Nice. Hey, you spoke to Luke Lauk, speaking of hoops, over the weekend. Does he aspire to be do you think college is in his future at all, or do you think is he an NBA guy now?
So, yeah, I asked him that. You can go watch the video on our YouTube channel. Yeah, I asked him that, and you could tell he didn't squash it. He wasn't like no chance. And look, man, we're all adults here, right? Like Luke Lauk has been an NBA coach. He's been in the NBA since 16, working with the Warriors as like a film coordinator, player developmental guy, and then the last 2 years he's been an actual assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings. So he's learning at the pinnacle of the sport as an assistant coach. He's mid-30s maybe. His last year was 2012. So he was the class of 2009. What does that make him? 33, 34?
Sure.
Somewhere in there. So he's a younger guy. He played at Florida State for 4 years. He is a coach. The current head coach at Florida State is 75 years old and will be going into the last year of his contract next season. There will be an opening at Florida State soon. Whether it's at the end of this year or at the end of next year, there will be almost certainly an opening at Florida State soon. I have to imagine Luke Lauk is one of the candidates. I don't know. He's certainly not the only one. I'm not saying he's sliding in as a head coach and waiting, but yes, I do get the indication that he would be interested. I think that would be an interesting choice. He's certainly learning. He's getting his bona fides coaching for a playoff caliber team in the NBA. But there will be other candidates, I'm sure, that would want to coach at Florida State. But he's also a Nole. You know, he's here for 4 years, went to the tournament for 4 years, was part of an ACC championship team, and is a younger guy. So he's certainly an intriguing candidate. And yes, I do think that my impression was that he certainly, when I asked him that, did not just completely rule it out and say, no, I want to be an NBA head coach. You could tell head coach is head coach, and being the head coach at Florida State or any college, I'm sure would be something that's appealing to him.
Let's stay in that hypothetical universe for one last question on that.
All right.
Could Laux out-interview Sam Cassell? Or like if let's say Sam Cassell, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I would think that he's tried for so darn long to be in the NBA that he's going to keep trying, but maybe he's sick of trying. But like, would Cassell's bona fides just be too much for a guy like Laux to overcome? I mean, it's a good problem to obviously have, but like, would that just be like, well, man, this guy, he's been doing it forever, like pretty much.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cassell is I don't know how old Sam Cassell is, 52. He's been in the NBA legitimately. He's from Baltimore,
54.
so he has no guy. So he has no ties to the state of Florida. He's from Baltimore. He played at Florida State. He was at Florida State for a year and a half because he went JUCO and then went to Florida State and was awesome. One of the best that's ever been here. I think his numbers in the rafters, right? Maybe. Maybe
yes,
it's not.
It
should be
is.
if it's not.
Yes.
But it should be. So he's one of the best that's ever been here, and he played in the NBA forever. And he's been a part of the NBA for 30 years. He was at Florida State for a year and a half. If Sam Cassell would be interested in coming and coaching at Florida State, absolutely you are interested in him. And I mean, he's coached he's coached the best players in the world. He's been a part of the best league in the world for 3 decades. He's got a championship pedigree. Maybe not as a coach. I don't remember if he's
Yeah,
ever been
yeah, we won with the I think with
the Celtics.
The Celtics, yeah.
I know he won 2 as a player with the Rockets.
Actually, you're right. No, he was. I thought he was like an assistant. 2008. Yeah, he was still playing ball. Yeah, for the Celtics. He hasn't done.
So he's got 3 rings.
Yeah.
He
Rockets.
Yeah.
And then the Celtics.
So he's got a championship pedigree for sure. If he's interested in being a college head coach at Florida State, I would absolutely be interested in him. I just don't know how interested he would be. I don't know that. I've always assumed he would get a crack as a head coach in the NBA because he's been Luke isn't the way the NBA hierarchy works on a coaching staff. You have like your top assistant, obviously, and then your second, third, fourth guys. Luke is not Mike Brown's top assistant for the Sacramento Kings. He's an important part of the staff. He's an assistant coach. He's a bench coach. But Sam Cassell, I feel like, has been Doc Rivers' top assistant for a long time. And I don't know who does Sam even work for right now?
He works for the Celtics right now, but he was with the Clippers from 14 to 20, which I think overlapped
with Doc.
with
Doc. He was with Doc for that whole time.
And then
now
Sixers.
He's with who?
Well, he's with the Sixers. He was with the Sixers when Doc was there too. Now he's with the Celtics. He's with the C's.
As an assistant coach, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are only so many college or any head coaching jobs that come open at all. It's an ACC job. I get it. But would he want to come back to college, which he has not been in for 30 years, to take over as a head coach? Or does he want to hold on and try to get it? Because there's such different
He's 54, though, man, right? Like, how much longer are you going to hang on?
Well, right, yeah. But, I mean, you look around the NBA, there's a lot of guys that age that are coaching. But
not getting their first jobs, though, right?
Well, right. But Florida State's head coach is 75. My point being, you can still, you're right. There aren't many NBA guys that get their first job at 54, but there aren't many college guys that get their first job at 54 either.
Adrian Griffin was 49 years old and even make it 1 year with the Bucks, as much time as he was, waiting and hanging on for.
Yeah. So it would be fascinating with Cassell if he's genuinely interested. I have no idea. I have literally none.
Hypothetical world we're in here, everybody.
This is pure speculation. If he's interested in coaching Florida State, you have to factor in, okay, this guy, he was a great Seminole, but he has not been in the college game for 30 years. Think about how much that sport has changed from the time he was playing Christian Laettner to now. Like, it is a different sport. And also the NBA is so different than college. But then again, Luke is in the NBA. So if it's those two, would you rather take the guy that's been in the NBA for 30 years and has been a coach for 15 or 12 or whatever it's been, or a guy that's been a coach for 2 or 3? Like, I think it will come down to let me just say this. If Cassell and Luke were both very interested in it, well, then, yeah, Michael Alford. I don't know what to tell you. Both of them are crapshoots, man.
Yeah.
It's all a crapshoot. Look, man, you can't convince me that Sam Cassell must know the X's and O's better than anybody either of us have ever met or ever will meet, or any of you will ever meet. If you've been coaching if you played in the NBA for 15 years and won championships and then coached in the NBA for 15 years or whatever, it's been 10 years, man, there is no scheme, no X's and O's, no play, no out of bounds, nothing that you can not know. You know it all. It is a matter of getting players.
Yeah.
It is player acquisition. And that's the heart of all of it. Luke Laux, I trust what he knows, his basketball knowledge, and I absolutely trust what Sam Cassell knows. It would be more about who do I trust to be able to fill this roster with talent? Who has connections to fill this roster with talent? And look, man, there's the coach at South Florida has done an amazing job in 1 year. He turned that program completely around. The guy from Kennesaw State who got them, I think, to the tournament, and then is now at South Florida and has them playing unbelievably well.
Amir Abdur-Rahim.
They were. Yeah. So, he might want to coach in the ACC.
All right.
He's probably more of a, if it came down to guys that had never been a head coach before or a guy that's been a good coach at 2 different schools, that's another choice you got to make, but he's not a Nole. Luke Laux is a Nole. Sam Cassell was a Nole. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch for sure. I have no dog in the fight. That's the saying, right?
Yes, correct.
But there will be some real candidates It would be cool if Cassell or Laux was the next head coach, though. That would be really neat, I think.
I just feel like when it comes to professional versus college football, I think it's such a slam dunk to want to be an NFL head coach. Or shoot, I mean, even
it is now, for sure, with the NIL and the portal. Yeah,
and maybe it's like the inverse right now. Like, do you want to be a head coach? That's the pinnacle of it, but like with the amount of power players have in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
Like Giannis got Adrian Griffin fired. Like they were 8 games above 500 or whatever. He's not even his first full season. He gets fired. Like players have that much sway, and I'm like Darvin Ham's hanging on by a thread every other week in LA right now because of LeBron, and that's what LeBron does. I mean, not necessarily that Sam would be paired with somebody of that big stature as a star player, but like that's what you need to win in that league. Like you need to have big time stars, but it's so fickle. But then like so is college, but maybe there's a little bit more maybe, you control your own destiny in college. Like I can go get these guys, and once they're in my program, like they will buy in and they will play hard because they will get all their guarantees that they want and they'll feel good.
Well, and again, and I think both of them would modernize the I don't know, just the offensive and defensive schemes that Florida State has. Clearly,
we're not going to rotate like just one five. We're not going to rotate everybody. Just
you're not going to switch everything, and you're also going to get guys that can shoot, and you're not going to just. It's not going to just be a bunch of ball movement. And look, man, I'm saying this as Florida State has a pretty darn good offense this year, even without shooting. And by the way, I wanted to point this out. Jameer Watkins is just an awesome. I shouldn't say awesome. He is a very good college basketball player, man. I love that kid. You can't say it for everybody on the team. That kid is a very good college basketball player. He had 22 and 11. They had 11 rebounds in the first half, Aslan. He had 7 of them. And he's the second smallest guy on the court for them. His season and his abilities kind of getting lost in a 500 type campaign, but he's a good player, man. But yeah, again, I think any coach you bring in is going to bring a new outlook, fresh eyes. He's got to modernize some of the play. Luke and Sam, especially because they're at the NBA, they're at the pinnacle where it's all shooting and you spread everybody out and all that. But again, what does it matter if you can't get guys to play for you? If you can't get players here, you could be the smartest coach in the world. You're not going to win anything that matters if you don't get good players. So if I was the AD, if I was Michael Alford, my number one priority is I want to make sure the person I'm hiring has connections that can either raise money to get players or recruit at a high level to get me players so we can win games, because getting players is the number one, especially in college basketball. Well, every sport. What am I talking about? But in college basketball, if you get 2 bad, you can get to the NCAA tournament, get to the Sweet 16. Like you get 2 really awesome players, like top 20 NBA picks, and then the rest are just guys, you're going to be pretty darn good. And who gives you the best chance of bringing those guys in to make Florida State relevant again in basketball? Those are the discussions that would be happening, I would think, after this season is over, and certainly into next season, because I can't imagine Leonard getting an extension, and I certainly hope he doesn't play hardball and is like, hey, if y'all don't give me an extension, I'm leaving. Like, I hope he lets him – like, the way you envision it now, right, Aslan? We talked about this on Headlines. The way it probably plays out now, we all think, is they have been not an embarrassment this year. Yeah. The record is 14-12, guys. We get it. They're not great. They were 9-20 last year. They were disgusting. The year before, they were barely better than that, and Wyatt Wilkes got punched in the stomach in their last game. And nobody on the court did anything about it. Nobody. Not Wilkes, who was crumpled over. I get that. He was punched. But none of his teammates, nobody did anything to Boeheim's kid when Wyatt Wilkes got punched in the stomach. And then the next year they go 9-20. I think they've gotten that element out of the program. It is not an embarrassment to watch this program anymore. They are not great. They are not all that talented, but they do play hard, and they are watchable. And they do score points. They're much more fun to watch. They're much more fun to cheer for because they're playing hard. They're at least trying. Yep. And they got some nice players. Jameer Watkins, good player. So, they're not – it's not an abject embarrassment and horror show like it was the last 2 years, in my opinion. But so even still, it's going to be 3 years in a row missing the tournament. But the point is, Leonard, it is good enough, in my opinion, that Leonard, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I get you guys might be yelling at me, he has earned the right to have himself a farewell lap next season. He's going to turn 76. If he wants to coach next year with no years left on his contract, if he's willing to do that, which I hope he is, then I hope that happens, and they will have a plan in place to have his successor ready by this time next year. And also, think about all the stuff that's going on right now with this university, man. Do they really want to be hiring a basketball coach in the midst of all this? They're in a lawsuit for their lives to try to get out of this blooming conference. They probably don't want to go pay somebody a couple $1 million to not coach and then go try to conduct a national coaching search for a pretty important sport when they can have Leonard. Because he's, again, if they were as bad as they were last year, I'm not saying this. He needs to be gone. But they're not. They've shown improvement. They are a serviceable ACC team. They're above 500 in the ACC. They're not horrible. They're not losing every game by 30 points. They're winning some, and when they do lose, they're again, they're
what does
losing
one
by
more year give
6
you,
points.
though? Why are we doing...
It gives you a chance where it doesn't have to get ugly with Leonard Hamilton. No matter what happens, you're not going to be an NCAA tournament team in 1 year probably. There's going to be a turnaround. You're going to lose some players. It gives you a chance to get your ducks in a row to make sure you make the right hire. And, again, I think the fact that, look, I would get it either way. If you're like, no, we're done. I would get that from Alford's perspective, but it's also like sometimes, Leonard Hamilton has done a lot for this program. The team has gotten appreciably better. Maybe you do give him his farewell lap and say, okay, you're going to announce your retirement before the end of the year, just like Mike Martin did. Now, obviously, Leonard Hamilton hasn't come close to accomplishing what Mike Martin did, but you give him a chance to go out, quote unquote, on his own terms. Maybe you do a head coach in waiting. I don't know. Maybe you bring one of those two guys we were just talking about onto your staff. Then he can learn the ropes for a year, make the connections he needs to make, because they haven't been a college assistant, either one of them, and then they can take over in March of 2025.
That's the only thing I'd be on board on. And who am I? And I love Leonard Hamilton. And I really do. It's incredible what he did. But I just don't know, like, this farewell tour. There's no guarantee it's going to be roses, I felt like this was a good way to salvage everything. Like, all right, like you walk away with your dignity. Everyone is so appreciative of what you've done. I feel like even another year of, like, even if they go 18-13, I just don't know what's so much better of a feeling about that. But if you do, figure out a head coach in waiting thing, I'm all for that. I think that makes sense.
I think what you'd say there, though, is that do you want to pay – what are you going to have to pay Luke Laux or Sam Cassell or the guy from South Florida or whoever else, the guy from Indiana State, Kennesaw, or the guy from Florida Atlantic if he was ever going to leave? What are you going to have to pay them to come coach you? Because you're going to have to pay Leonard Hamilton $2 million a year to not coach you. So are you willing to take that hit financially when you're trying to scrounge together as much money as you can?
Yeah.
Or I guess the opposite side of that is what's another $2 million when you're going to be having to spend hundreds of millions maybe, potentially, to get out of the conference with this stupid lawsuit? I don't know. But you're going to be spending a lot of money on this lawsuit. You're going to spend you're spending a lot of money on this stadium renovation. You're always spending money on football players. $2 million to get your head coach, to just fire him to hire someone that's never coached college basketball before. Maybe it would behoove you to get that person on your staff as an assistant for a year, and then they could take over. But again, this is pure speculation, folks. I don't want you guys to think that, like, oh, Corey videoed Luke. Corey talked to Luke on Saturday. He must have got the insight. No. All what you saw in video is the talk I had with Luke Laux. I'm not. We haven't had a 40-minute phone conversation about his plans. This is all speculation about what, if I was Florida State, what I might look to do. To make it, again, just to make, I don't want it to get ugly, but it probably will get ugly, and that's what saddens me. I just don't want it to get ugly. Yeah. I don't want to make it ugly. I want, Leonard deserves, well, who deserves it? I would love it if Leonard got to not be terminated or relieved of his duties. But again, he's in a competitive sport, and this will be 3 years in a row of not making the tournament. This year is not a fireable team.
Correct.
Last year's absolutely was. So that's what you have to. And what's the hope that it gets better next year?
Yes.
You know, or you and I see what you're saying. Like, Leonard doesn't just get to coach in perpetuity. We're not all here for Leonard Hamilton's feelings, but at the same time, if you put that a little bit on the back burner anyway, because you've got all this other stuff that you've really got to address that's more important, quite frankly, than college basketball, then maybe you let him ride out with one last farewell lap around the track. I don't know.
21 minutes of hoops talk.
How about that? Was that really it?
Yeah, that's incredible, right?
Gosh.
This was supposed to be a short show.
Go. Yeah, I know. Let's go. Let's get to baseball and wrap it up.
But first, mybookie.ag, promo code Warchant. Use that when you sign up for the first time. You get an instant cash deposit bonus. Futures. How about the ladies when it comes to winning the national championship? South Carolina and Dawn Staley, the odds-on favorite at plus 119. The defending champs, plus 720, the LSU Tigers. My girl, Kim Mulkey. Love you, Kim.
Yeah, everybody. How could you not love her?
Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes, plus 750. UConn, plus 1425. Just feel like that's, just always want to kind of think that UConn's got a shot, but maybe those days are long gone. But I don't know. Gino's the second winningest coach now in history. Made it ahead of K, so. For some reason, Florida State's not on this list. Creighton is at plus 28,000, which is bizarre. Oh, there they are. Florida State, plus 40,000, kids.
Okay.
Why not? Why not us? Bet responsibly, everybody, for real. Please, bet responsibly. Bet what you can. Don't chase. Make a budget. Follow it. MyBookie.ag, promo code WARCHAMP. Promo requires $50 minimum deposit and rollover requirement of one-time deposit total, including the bonus for withdrawal. For full terms and conditions, visit MyBookie.ag/about-us. We've got a really cool job, everybody. Some of you might have to do rock, papers, and scissors to determine what your teammate in your office is going to do, or flip a coin. Corey and I'm like, hey, Corey, so we won't do a show on Wednesday unless hoops and baseball wins. That was our flipping of the coin. If they both win, we'll do a show. If they don't, we're not doing a show. We're talking to you. That's because obviously basketball when we talked about it. But shout out to the baseball team, Corey. Real good win over a JU team that's pretty darn solid. 7-4, back and forth battle the entire way. This might have been one of those games I think Florida State loses last year. And for as bad as last year was, and it was terrible, it was the worst season in program history, or at least the worst in 50 years or something crazy like that. They were very competitive in a lot of games. They would jump out to leads. Link would be able to push the buttons and get them motivated. They'd have a lead after 3 innings, and then they would lose it, and then things would slip away from them. And in this game, they had the lead early. They tacked on 2 runs early in the first inning. JU storms back, and they tie it up in the 6th inning, and it's 4-4 tie. And in the 9th inning, Florida State just kind of leans on them, kind of finally overwhelms them. They were aggressive on the base paths. They took advantage of the mistakes that JU made. Jaime Ferrer had an RBI single. That was the go-ahead. Then they scored on a wild pitch. And then our guy Marco Dinges had a sac fly. They played 3 runs in the 9th inning. And Connor Whitaker was dealing, and then he just ran out of gas so fast. Yeah. He fell off a cliff, it seemed like. Allowed an RBI triple. That's when they gave him the hook. And then, man, Carson Dorsey, this kid, 3 2/3 and got the win, and he rung up 10 guys, 10 punch-outs. And that's going to be, I think, the real key to this team, Corey. Offensively, they'll figure it out. They're, Cantu starting at first base. Dinges, was pinch hit into this game. They've got Max Williams. McGuire Holbrook is platooning at catcher. They're going to figure it out defensively and at the plate. But man, if they can get some pieces in the bullpen to find roles, and I'm not expecting him to come out and light the world on fire, Dorsey every night and ring up 10 guys. But if they can get something kind of close to that's the real question mark. And if they can figure that out, this team certainly is going to compete for a spot in the 64 team tournament.
Yeah, you would think. I need to see more
7-4 win, by the way. Sorry, everybody. 7-4
beat Jacksonville. I need to see more arms. I'm aboard with the offense. I think the offense will be good. The defense is going to be average-ish, you think?
Right.
The pitching, we'll have to see. There's so many unproven arms. Whitaker isn't one of them. Whitaker is proven. But, yeah, you don't know. He pitched, I don't know, 5 1/3? So
and he's not your midweek guy. He's supposed to be your Sunday guy.
But it's also like, that's kind of early to be going into a 6th inning of the season. Like, it's the first start of the year. So, you maybe he can't go 7 innings right now. Maybe he's a 4 or 5 inning guy. But, the Dorsey kid, it would appear that Link has a lot of confidence in him. I know he pitched. I think he was the first guy out of the pen on Friday night, too, against Butler. And that was still a game, I think. When it was 3-0, I think he came in relief of Leiter, and then he came in this game when Whitaker started giving it up and he got the win. Yeah, man, he's a lefty with some electric stuff. So, yeah, I just think I want to see more of the pitching, but this is a good start, man. It's encouraging. It's hard to even know about the defense right now, Aslan, because in their first game, they struck out 22 guys. And in this game, what did they strike out? They struck out 16.
Yep.
So, in Dorsey, he got 11 outs, and 10 of them were by strikeouts. So, it's hard to know. The defense isn't getting tested a lot yet. It will. As you start facing better teams, obviously, more guys are going to have to put the bat on the ball. You have to make more plays. But I like the length of the lineup. I like that they stole 4 more bases. I like that they walked almost as much as they struck out. They struck out less than 10 times as a team on offense. They put the ball in play. They seem to have good at-bats. It's a long lineup with a lot of power, even though they didn't hit any home runs. They put the ball in play, which so far, at least through 3 games, small sample size, it's good to see. So, again, when you go whatever they went, when you lost 31 games the year before, it's the worst season in school history. I don't care who you beat. To start out 3-0 is a big deal, especially because there's so many new guys on the team.
Well, they started out really good last year too.
Yeah, but they I guess they
this
did.
feels real though. This feels real. It does.
But also, when it's important when you're playing the Butlers and Jacksonvilles of the world, it's important to go. And you're at Florida State. You need to go win those games early in the season. Build yourself some confidence, man, and learn to win. Learn what it feels like to win, to feel like a winner. Like, all that stuff matters. There's a lot, like Cam Smith, Tibbs, Ferrer, very talented players. They all might play in the major leagues right now. They have not been winning college baseball players. No. They have not been. I would guess their record through 2 seasons. Well, Cam Smith is under 500 last year, and I would assume Ferrer and Tibbs through 2 years are about 500. They're used to losing, much more than any Florida State players have ever been used to losing. So it's good no matter who you're playing to start off with some confidence. But yes, it's a small sample size. I like that they have some speed. They have dudes that can run that are big and physical. The pitching, I just don't know enough about them yet. I just don't know who is this kid the closer? Is he the bridge guy to the closer? It's hard to know roles yet. But I do like what I've seen. I like that they won on the road. I know that's not really a road environment. There were probably more Florida State fans at that game than Jacksonville fans, or close to it anyway. But I like that they won away from Hauser, their first time out. I think that's something. That's something to be said for that. They won in extra innings. There's something to be said for that. I think it was extra innings, right? 10 innings?
What,
or
on
just go 9?
No, it was 9. Yeah, they
won in the ninth.
Yeah,
okay,
in the top of the ninth.
They scored the runs in the ninth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, that's good to 4-4 going to the ninth, not in Hauser, to get that win. It's good to see. They're missing bats. They got some elite arms, I think. But yeah, we still don't know nearly enough about this team yet. But it would appear, in my opinion, to be better. And you'd always rather start out 3-0 than 0-3. Mm. How about that, Aslan?
I think they started out last season 6-0, but we'll see how it shakes out.
They were 6-0 last year?
Yeah.
And what'd they finish?
23-31.
So they went 17-31 the rest of the way? As soon as Crowell got hurt, right?
Yeah.
They just packed it in.
Yeah. They beat TCU. They came back home and beat USF. San Francisco, though, I think. I don't think that's South Florida. That's a weird-looking logo. Maybe that is
the
USF.
Dons. It could be the Dons. It could be San Francisco Dons.
But then they lost to Florida Gulf Coast. They lost that series.
Yeah, Florida Gulf Coast hit 1 million home runs. Dong City.
I do wonder, with Whitaker being like slated as the Sunday guy and him going 5 innings, like that. Maybe that is like what we saw is ideally how it would work out maybe, but probably not, viable or sustainable. But he's probably going to give you like 5 or 6, I would think, right? I mean, if he's going to be your Sunday starter, that's all you're really hoping to get, and then you just Johnny Holstaff the rest of the way, usually on Sunday.
Yeah, but who are those guys?
Yeah,
and we don't know yet. And I think I do think Link is going to try out a lot of guys, and he might cost himself a game doing it. But he's got to find – he is not going to be – I don't think he's a coach that even with a good team is going to be like, okay, I got the 2 bullpen arms I trust. Everybody else can pitch when it's 8-0. But these are the 2 guys at any tight spot I'm going to bring in. I think he's going to want 6 or 7 guys that he can bring in at any spot, and he's going to do some tinkering, and he's going to do some mixing and matching, and it might backfire a few times, but clearly – the Dorsey kid, who's new, that's a guy that he seems to really value because he's pitched in 2. They played in 2 semi-close games. Again, when Dorsey came in on Friday night against Butler, it was only 3-0. But he pitched in that game, and then he pitched in this game when it was tied. It pitched his butt off. So clearly, Dorsey is a guy he's trusting. We know what he thinks of Leiter and Arnold. Whitaker, you know what you get out of him. Well, you kind of know. 5 innings, that's fine. Yeah. You can deal with that on a Sunday. It's those other guys. It's pitchers 5 through 11. We still don't know enough about yet.
Wow, we went an hour.
Oh my God, did we really?
Yeah. Are you gonna still go watch that show?
I guess, Aslan. I'm not gonna finish the season. I can tell you that much. And Stephanie's already asleep. Well, that sounded weird. Like I wanted to. I'm not saying we were planning on doing anything. I'm supposed to try on my wedding suit.
Oh.
She got that today from the altar. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to try on the suit to make sure it fits, and she wants to see me in it.
Okay.
I can't promise what happens after that game.
Yeah, man. Shoot.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Wake up! Wake up!
That's a wrap for us. We'll probably do a show tomorrow on Thursday because we got an interview lined up on Wednesday. But maybe we'll save it for Friday. We'll see how it goes. At least one more show coming your way this week. Subscribe, everybody. Then you'll know when these shows are in your feed and ready to go. So, yeah, it's a late one. Hit the thumbs up, everybody. We see you out there. Hit the thumbs up. We grind in the late morning, early morning, late night for you. He's
Good
Corey
work,
Maslan. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. Tune in for that. It's been Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.